Hi, everyone. This is my first ever scary story. So I was thinking about telling this story for quite a while, actually. I've written it a few times, but I'm really nervous because this is my first ever scary story. So please be kind. Anyway, here we go. Once upon a time in the Philippines, there was a boy who lived with his Lola in a big house in Laguna. They didn't have any family and they were very poor. One night, the boy, whose name was Carlo, woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of footsteps dragging themselves up the bed beside him. The time is 2:34 a.m. Only a minute has passed, but for Carlo, it feels as if something ancient has awakened. The pressure on his feet remains. It does not grow heavier, but it begins to move, ever so slightly, not a crawl, not a shuffle, but a presence, dragging itself slowly up the bed. He dares not open his eyes, but his ears, they listen to every soft drag of cotton sheets beneath unseen weight, to every squeak of the mattress coils, to every faint exhale that doesn't come from his lungs. Outside the window, the wind has gone still. No leaves rustle, no crickets chirp. The world has paused, as if it too is watching. The room is filled now with tension, not loud, not screaming, but thick, like fog settling on the skin. Clammy, damp, still. He breathes in. The air is colder than before. It tastes metallic, old. And then, a sound, a whisper, not a voice. A sound like bare feet on wood, pacing just beside the bed. But he has not moved, he is sure of that. Yet the sound circles him, soft, uneven, like someone dragging one leg. Then silence again, but not peace. He opens his eyes, just a little, just enough, and he sees it. At the foot of the bed, a figure, small, curled up, facing away. A girl, he thinks, hair long, tangled, wet, soaking the sheets beneath her. Her spine arches unnaturally, as if twisted by the fall they say she suffered. Her limbs too long, her dress too white, too stained. But her mouth moves, murmuring something, over and over. He strains to hear. It's not Tagalog, it's not English. It's the sound of water filling lungs, of breath that's forgotten how to be breath. Then her head turns, not slowly, but in a snap, the way a neck should not turn. The way only a broken thing turns. Her eyes are open wide, lifeless, but locked on his. She sees him. He tries to scream, but no voice comes. He tries to move, but the weight of her gaze pins him like stone. Her lips twitch. A grin spreads across her cracked skin, and her whisper, no longer soft, fills the room like smoke. You're awake now. Carlo's body jolts. A single gasp escapes. And just like that, she's gone. No trace, no sound, no lingering shadow on the wall. Only the bed sheets, still damp, still cold, still indebted. He stares at the ceiling until morning, too afraid to close his eyes, because what if she climbs back? The next night, Carlo leaves the bedroom light on. He places salt along the windowsill, like Lola used to say. He places his shoes upside down beneath the bed. He leaves a glass of water untouched beside the door. Superstition, desperation, hope, but none of it matters. When the clock reads 2:33 a.m., the room darkens. Though the light remains on, the bulb flickers, then dies, without a sound. And from the corner, a giggle, not joyful, not human, wet, sharp, like nails dragging across glass. Through water, Carlo. He hears it clearly now. She knows his name. She says it sweetly, too sweetly, as if tasting it. Carlo, lie still. She's back. The footsteps begin again. Softer now, confident. They move not on the floor, but on the wall. Up the wall, across the ceiling, and finally down the headboard, until her face is just above his, dripping, smiling, inverted. She leans in, her hair cold on his cheek, her voice a breath inside his ear. I never left. Carlo does not sleep ever again. That room in Laguna remains locked now, the windows boarded, and the bed burned. But still, if you pass by at night, you may hear the creak of footsteps just behind you, and feel the weight of something small pressing against your ankles as you lie down to rest. But if you wake in the middle of the night and feel that strange pressure on your feet, don't look. Just don't look. Carlo screamed. He scrambled back. The girl didn't move. She kept crawling. Her fingers splayed, reaching. Her nails long, sharp, hooked, like the claws of some feral thing. Carlo backed away. His hand brushed something on the wall. A loose stone. He pressed harder. A small avalanche of rubble fell. The girl stopped. She looked up. Not the girl, not the house, but the truth. This was a story that refused to be buried. This was a house that refused to let go. This was a wound in the earth that wept every night at 33. He understood now why people walked away from this place, why even their memories seemed to fade. The house took everything. Memories, lives, hopes, dreams. It fed on absence, on silence. It whispered to those who listened. It beckoned to those who lingered, and it promised rest to those who stayed. Just one more sleep, just one more breath, just one more moment in the house, and then you will be ours forever. He stumbled out of the room. He needed to get away. He needed to escape the whispering walls. He needed to outrun the crawling girl. But as he fled, he heard her voice, soft, sad, like wind chimes in the breeze. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "Please, don't leave me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't mean to follow you. I just want to play. Can we be friends?" The front door slammed. Vines whipped against his legs. The ground trembled behind him. The house groaned. And in the distance, he heard the sound of footsteps, heavy, dragging, slow. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scary Story. Time for our platform. As always, I'm your host. Today's story comes from a writer. Let's jump right into it. She crawled, joints cracking, limbs jerking. Her body broken in ways no living child should ever be, but her eyes. They held something new, not hatred, not vengeance, but grief. Carlo stayed still, not frozen in fear, but locked in a moment of unspoken understanding. This girl, this broken echo of Lucia, had been calling out for decades, not to haunt, to be heard, to be known, to be seen. Her black tears soaked into the bed. She sat by his side, close now, knees pressed to his, her breathing ragged, fragile. And then her voice. They pushed me. Not a whisper, not a scream, but a truth, old and aching. Carlo's body chilled. Lucia didn't fall. She was not sleepwalking. She was not clumsy. She had been pushed. The history he'd read, the records, the coroner's note, the closed case had all been wrong. A lie buried in dust and silence. And now she wanted the truth to live. He watched as she extended her hand, small, bruised, still dripping. In her palm, something shiny. A pin, old, rust-speckled, engraved with the symbol of a military unit from World War II. His breath caught. One of the families that lived here post-war. The father had been a former Japanese collaborator hiding from justice. He had used the attic as a hiding place. And Lucia, she had seen, the pin slipped from her hand and rolled onto the floor. It stopped, pointing toward the wardrobe, toward the secret crawlspace behind it. The candle flickered again. Its flame shrank, then flared. Lucia was gone, but she had left the door open. Not the bedroom door, the other door. The thin seam in the wall where faded wallpaper peeled just slightly at the edge. Carlo stood. The room was silent again, but not empty. He moved the wardrobe, pushed against the wall, and there, a narrow space, a crawl space choked in dust, filled with relics, bones, old clothes, a rusted belt, a diary. He reached inside. The air smelled of mildew and rot. He pulled out the diary. The name inside, Lucia Abad. He turned the pages. Most were faded, water damaged, but one remained clear. A single entry dated June 12th, 1952. I saw him again in the attic. He doesn't know I saw. I think he's hiding something. I want to tell Mama, but she said not to go in the attic ever again. I think he's dangerous. I'll tell Tita instead tomorrow after class. There was no entry after that. No tomorrow. Lucia had tried to speak, and someone silenced her. Carlo reported the findings to the barangay. At first, they dismissed him, but the relics, the pin, the diary, the crawl space, they were real. Too real to ignore. The barangay captain brought in historians. They confirmed the military insignia, confirmed the diary's age. A small memorial was eventually placed in the garden behind the house. Under the mango tree, Lucia used to climb, and the room. They cleansed it, blessed it, but it didn't need cleansing. It needed release. 2 weeks later, Carlo returned, not to sleep, but to say goodbye. He stepped into the room, candle in hand. He placed it at the foot of the bed, just as before, and whispered, "You were heard, Lucia. You were seen." And for the first time, since the night he arrived, there was no sound at 2:33 a.m. No weight, no breath, no shadow, only warmth. A stillness that felt clean, empty in the way grief fades, not gone, but at peace. Outside, the mango leaves rustled softly. The wind returned. The silence had ended. Carlo stepped out of the house. The candle still burned behind him, its flame unmoved. And in the window, just for a second, he saw her, not broken, not weeping, but standing, whole, smiling. And then she faded with the morning light. This happened to me once. I was home for a Christmas vacation. I was staying at my grandmother's house. This old house in Laguna. It's been in my family for more than 100 years. Photos on the walls. Furniture passed down from generation to generation. Even the smell of the old wood. It's a comforting place, but also a little eerie. On Christmas Day, we were all in the kitchen telling stories when suddenly my sister said, "Did you guys hear that?" We all looked at each other, confused. My grandma, she just smiled and said, "Ah, that's just Lucia." Lucia. The only other person who lived in that house was my great-grandmother. She passed away years ago, but apparently she liked to visit during Christmas. As the night went on, we kept hearing things. Footsteps in the attic, whispers in the walls, even a piano playing in the distance. It was like the house itself was coming alive with all these stories. I couldn't help but feel like I was part of something bigger, like the house was trying to tell me something. Then it happened again. I was alone in a living room when I heard footsteps in the attic. I could have sworn I wasn't imagining it this time. Curiosity got the better of me. I climbed up into the attic. The steps were creaking, and every sound echoed in the dusty silence. As I made my way through the darkness, I felt like I was being watched. And then I saw her standing at the end of the hallway. She was small, maybe about 4 feet tall, with long black hair and a white dress. Her face was pale, and she had these sad eyes. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I couldn't move or speak. I was frozen with fear. Then she started to walk towards me. She took slow, deliberate steps, each one echoing in the silence. As she approached, I could see that her dress was torn and her skin was cold. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. She kept walking until she was right in front of me. She reached out a hand and touched my shoulder. Then she whispered, "Don't forget me." And with that, she disappeared. I don't know how long I stood there, but eventually I went back downstairs. I told my family what I'd seen, and they weren't surprised. Apparently, Lucia had been haunting our house for generations. She was the daughter of the original owner, and she died in a tragic accident many years ago. Now she's stuck here between worlds, unable to move on. As the years went by, I learned more about her story. How she loved to play in the attic as a child, how she dreamed of becoming a singer, how she died while performing in a traveling circus. The more I learned about her, the more I felt a sense of responsibility to help her find peace. These days, I still visit my grandparents' house every Christmas, and every year I bring flowers up to the attic. It's not much, but it's a way of saying, "Hey, Lucia, we remember you." Maybe one day soon she'll be able to move on, but until then, we'll keep her memory alive. Stories spread, not like wildfire, but like fog, slow, creeping, settling softly into places where people don't expect them. Carlo had moved on, or so he thought. He stopped visiting the forums, stopped sharing the tale, but it was too late. The story had moved on without him. One day, he received a letter, handwritten. No return address. The paper smelled faintly of candle smoke. Inside, only a single page. She came to me, too, but this time she wasn't crying. She whispered, "Your name." No signature. Only the faint imprint of a child's handprint, smudged in ash at the corner. A week later, Carlo's cousin messaged from Canada. They'd moved there 5 years ago. No connection to Laguna. No memory of the old house. But one night, his cousin's daughter, just 6 years old, woke up screaming. She kept pointing to the foot of the bed. "The girl is watching," she said. "She wants to go home." When asked what the girl looked like, the child replied, "Wet, like she came from a rain that didn't stop." The parents didn't believe it at first, but when they changed rooms, it followed. Every night, 2:33 a.m., the same time. Carlo stayed silent for weeks. What could he say? That a ghost might follow stories the way bees follow flowers. That, by speaking her name aloud, he may have made her stronger. It wasn't long before the videos started. Not viral, not famous, but there, buried in the horror corners of the internet. Creepy storytime vloggers, late-night whisper channels, they all told some version of it. The girl who presses down on your feet at 2:33 a.m. She's seen in hospitals, in dormitories, in old hotels. She only visits those who've heard about her. That last part chilled Carlo the most, because that meant the story was becoming the haunting. Not the place, not the girl, but the very telling of it. One Filipino vlogger from Davao released a video titled, "Don't Watch This Before Bed." He told the story of the girl at the foot of the bed in soft, deliberate Tagalog. At the end, he laughed nervously. "Just a story, right? Nothing will happen." Tulog na mga kaibigan. In the comments, thousands of views. Hundreds of stories. I felt pressure on my bed after watching. My lights flickered at 2:33 a.m. and I live alone. I heard someone whisper my name while I was dozing off. Carlo watched in silence. He wanted to warn them, but he also remembered this girl. She wasn't evil. She was grieving. She was searching. Still, there was one post that made him sweat. A user uploaded an image, a blurry photo taken with a shaky hand, low light. But in the photo, a shadow hunched, long-haired, perched at the foot of someone's bed, and the timestamp on the corner. 2:33 a.m. Carlo shut off his phone. He turned off the lights. And for the first time in months, he didn't say her name before bed. He just lay there, his eyes open, waiting. That night, the pressure came back, stronger this time, and it moved. From his feet to his chest, heavy, cold, not violent, but purposeful. A whisper, so faint it felt like breath beneath skin. You started it. And then, silence. The weight lifted, and the room remained still. They say some stories are warnings, not because they're false, but because they're too true, too hungry to stay quiet. After Emil, others grew quieter. The storytellers now whispered with reverence. They didn't just narrate, they honored. Each retelling now included a name. Lucia, the girl who may have drowned or died alone or simply never woke up. No one knows. But to forget her invites her presence. Carlo returned to Laguna. He couldn't stay away. The house stood older, but untouched. His cousin had left the room as it was, as if waiting. He stepped inside the bedroom, and it was cold. Not air-conditioned, but grief-cold. Like walking into someone's last breath. The bed was made, the sheets untouched. But the air held breath, held silence. And something else, a faint hum, as if the room itself remembered the sound of her name. Carlo sat on the bed, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Lucia, if you're still here, I remember you. I still carry your story, and I tell it with care." The weight returned. Not frightening, just present, a thank you, a promise, and a question. Carlo opened his eyes, and in the mirror, just for a second, he saw her. Small hair over her eyes, face wet but smiling. Then she was gone, but not forgotten, because she's never truly gone. She is wherever sleep is deep, where silence lives, where stories linger. So if you hear her tale, do not mock it, do not fear it. Only whisper, "You are seen," and she will sit quietly at the foot of your bed. They say some stories are warnings, not because they're false, but because they're too true. Have you ever woken up in the dark, in the middle of the night, and you feel like someone is watching you? Not angrily, not with rage, but with longing. That's how she waits. Every night, every bed, every sigh, before the dream takes over. I sit because I used to sleep, too. Long ago, in a room no one remembers, on sheets that smelled of laundry soap. And mango blossoms, my mother's voice in the hallway. The clatter of old electric fans, the hum of crickets through wooden windows. I was 9, and I never woke up. They said I had fever, or maybe fright, that something sat on my chest while I dreamed. Or maybe I saw something I shouldn't have seen. But none of that matters now. What matters is I stayed. The house changed. People left. Walls peeled. The earth cracked beneath the garden. But I stayed because no one came back for me. So I began to watch, not with anger, but with hope. I watched the living try to forget me, and the more they forgot, the colder I became. Until one boy, Carlo, whispered a story in the dark. And in that moment, I was warm again. We forget, sometimes, that ghosts are not always monsters. They're memories with nowhere to go. They are wounds that never found a voice. And Lucia, she became a story. One that no longer needed a house, just a listener. Some say she now visits those who carry sorrow in their chest. She curls at the foot of hospital beds, waits in night buses on empty roads, hums gently in childhood bedrooms, now filled with adult regrets. And if you feel her, don't flinch. She isn't there to harm you. She's only asking, do you still remember bedtime? Do you still believe in the dark? Will you let me rest, just for a little while, at your feet? If the answer is yes, then sleep will come softly. Heavier, yes. Colder, perhaps, but safer, because she is watching now. Not as a curse, not as a threat, but as a story that now lives inside you, tucked under your pillow, threaded into your breath, folded in the silence between dreams. Some night, Carlo still hears her, not always in dreams. Sometimes, just in the way his blanket feels slightly tugged, or the clock blinking to 33 a.m. without him remembering how he woke. But he no longer fears it. He just whispers, gently, "You are safe here," and she stays, until the morning birds begin to sing, until the dew catches the edge of sunlight on the window pane, until the darkness forgets, then she fades, not gone, just resting. Have you ever sat in silence? Not the kind where you're with people and there's an awkward pause between your sentences. I mean, a different kind of silence. The kind where you re-surrounded by quiet and it feels like the whole world is holding its breath. Have you ever sat in that kind of silence and thought, I can hear my own heartbeat. I can hear my own breathing. There's so much noise in my head and in my body. How can I possibly be surrounded by silence? When you find yourself in that situation, what do? Do you try and make more noise? Do you start talking, or put on music, or turn on the TV? Do you try and escape the silence, or do you sit with it? Do you allow the silence to envelop you completely? Have you ever sat in the silence and really listened to the quiet? Sometimes when we do that, we can hear things we've never heard before. Sounds from our own body, sounds from the world around us. And sometimes we can even hear the whispers of forgotten memories, feelings, and emotions that we've buried deep inside of us. I want you to think about a memory that you've almost forgotten. Maybe it's a memory of a loved one that's passed away. Maybe it's a memory of a special moment in your life. Maybe it's a memory of a feeling that you used to feel all the time, but you haven't felt in a long time. I want you to think of that memory and really relive it in your mind. What do you see? Now, I want you to take that memory and hold it in your heart. Let it consume you. Let it become a part of you. Now, I want you to go out into the world and share your memory with someone else. Tell them everything you remember. Tell them everything you feel. And when you do that, you'll realize that the silence isn't really there anymore. You've replaced it with something more meaningful. You've replaced it with a part of you that you thought you'd lost forever. So tonight, when you're lying in bed and the silence starts to creep in, don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. Let it be a part of you. Because in the silence, you'll find the strength, courage, and love that you never knew you had. And if you're lucky, you might even find a part of yourself that you thought was lost forever. We've reached the end, but not everything ends. Some stories wrap around you, not with claws or screams, but with silence. You're lying still now, eyes heavy. Lashes brushing your cheeks like the wings of quiet moths. And in this stillness, let me leave you with a final truth. Lucia was real. Maybe not in the way the living measure proof, not in autopsy reports or viral footage, but she was real because someone remembered. Carlo, Bianca, me, and now you. And as long as her name is whispered softly, sincerely, in the quiet of night, she does not drift, she does not hunger, she only watches and waits, like a lullaby that plays on the edge of every nightmare, keeping it at bay. So sleep now. Let the dark embrace you, but do not fear it. There is a story beside you. Not under the bed, not in the closet, but nestled just behind your ears, in your breath, in your stillness. And if you feel the slight shifting of your sheets at dawn, a tug at your feet as the sky begins to gray, know it is not a warning. It is a girl resting her head where she once died, afraid, but now sleeps because you let her in. You gave her a name again. You gave her warmth without asking for answers. And that, dear listener, that is more powerful than any exorcism, any ritual, any torch against the night. In a world that forgets the dead so easily, you remembered. Somewhere in Laguna, an old house stands quiet. Dust thick on windowsills, mango trees leaning toward its crumbling roof. No one sleeps there now, but at exactly 2:33 a.m., each night there is weight on the bed, a girl's weight, and her eyes drift closed, because she knows her story lives elsewhere now, in a quiet room, with you. And you will sleep soundly tonight, not because you're alone, but because you are not. Good night. And remember, she only visits those who believe.